Hello, everybody. Welcome into the Fantasy Pros Dynasty Football Podcast. I am Ryan Wormeli, joined as always by Scott Bogman and by Pat Fitzmaurice. And today we are joined by 9 of our friends and listeners as we partake in a Superflex Dynasty Startup Mock Draft. We did one of these already a few weeks ago. I think it was at some point in June, maybe at the very end of May. And we decided it's a good time to circle back here in the middle of July and do another one. Last time I was picking on the end. This time I've got the 8th pick. We've got Bogman picking first. We've got Fitz in the middle. So it's going to be a ton of fun. Bogman, what are you thinking here? I'll unpause the draft here in a second, but as we go in, what's your strategy with the first pick?
Yeah, it's quarterback. We talked about it in Fitz's Superflex draft strategy and rankings, and I want one of those top quarterbacks. So when I was looking through the picks, number 1 was available, and I said, let's go ahead and get the best one available, and I'm going to take Josh Allen.
I think that makes a lot of sense. I'll go ahead and resume the draft so you can make that pick and we can get going here. Fitz, you've got, the 5th pick? How are you feeling about that? Is that, somewhere that you like to pick when you're doing a dynasty draft, or is it just you wanted to kind of pick something new?
No, I do generally like to man the middle of drafts in dynasty startups, Worm. I just, when you patrol the middle, positional runs don't get away from you. You can kind of stay on top of things. And I also like the fact that you never go too long without making a pick. I know sometimes it's nice to fire off 2 quick picks at the end of a round, but then also sometimes there are tiers where things sort of drop off and you're not happy with any of your options. And then you have to pick, make 2 picks. Whereas there's always someone I want to get when I'm in the middle of a draft.
Quick note for everybody as we get going here. Today's draft is being done in our mock draft lobby. If you've got any drafts coming up and want some quick, helpful practice, you can mock against your friends using our mock draft lobby, or you can practice fun, fast, and free drafts in our draft simulator, both of which are available on fantasypros.com/draftwizard. So far, unsurprisingly, we've got a few quarterbacks. I'm actually, guys, in the middle of a slow draft Dynasty Superflex startup today as we record. We just started it today, so it's kind of funny for me to compare how that started off to what we see here in the mock. Obviously, every league is a little bit different. So far here in our mock draft, we've got Bogman with Josh Allen. Then a listener took Jalen Hurts, number 2. Patrick Mahomes went 3rd. Lamar Jackson went 4th. Fairly standard. Maybe the order, your mileage may vary on the order, but pretty standard to see those 4 quarterbacks going really early. And then Fitz, you take another quarterback here.
Yeah, I took CJ Stroud. And kind of a close call between Stroud and Anthony Richardson and Caleb Williams. Like, I have all those guys pretty close, but I do think maybe Stroud is the safest. We haven't seen Anthony Richardson make it through an entire season with his body intact. Certainly, he has massive scoring potential, and I think Caleb Williams might prove to have massive scoring potential too. But we saw what CJ Stroud just did. And there was no doubt from the minute that guy stepped onto a field that he was an above average NFL quarterback. And, maybe he can achieve greatness here in the early part of his career, because what he gave us as a rookie hinted at greatness.
Yeah, with Stroud, the one question mark, and I say question mark very lightly, is how much will the running come into play compared to the Richardsons of the world and the Caleb Williamses of the world. But the arm was just so special, and the setup around him is so great. And obviously he's young and has room to even take a step forward. I think there's room for more running as well if the offense allows him to do so. So I think it's a totally good pick. I did take Caleb Williams here with the 8th pick. Christian McCaffrey went 7th. I took Caleb in the startup earlier today with the 8th pick, so I wanted to kind of mirror that. I was torn between him and Richardson, and I just decided that I was going to have more FOMO if I missed out on Caleb, just the hype. And, it's your dynasty team. You're going to be with it for a while. So that's the direction I went. To wrap up the first round here in this draft, we have CeeDee Lamb, we have Joe Burrow, we have Dak Prescott, and we have Bijan Robinson. So 2 running backs, 1 wide receiver, and then the rest quarterbacks. Is that about the right ratio, Bogman?
No, I'm actually kind of surprised that the wide receivers didn't go ahead of the running backs because they last longer in Dynasty. So for me, I'm a little bit surprised that the running backs went over the QBs.
Yeah, it is. I think a little bit surprising to see that, particularly somebody, CMC. We know what he is this year, but you better be in win now mode if you're drafting Christian McCaffrey. We've got Breece Hall and Bijan were drafted by the same team at the 112 and the 201. Kyler Murray, so the Dak Prescott manager, doubling up a quarterback. Jamar Chase gets paired with Joe Burrow. Tyreek Hill goes here, so I'm going to very happily take Justin Jefferson and pair him with Caleb Williams, and I'm going to be pretty darn ecstatic to have that.
Man.
Yeah, to get him at 205 is just phenomenal.
Arguably the best receiver you could draft in this format. Like I might see the case for like a Chase or a Lamb, but Jefferson is in that conversation. So to pair him with the upside of Caleb Williams is pretty spectacular, I think. Jordan Love goes next in Amon-Ra. So Fitz, you're now on the clock.
Boy. All right. I am oscillating between two picks here, and I am going to go. Man, I'm going to go with Jaden Daniels. I'm going to start quarterback. And there's that rushing upside that I didn't get with CJ Stroud-Worm.
You sure got it here.
And Bogman groans. I took something off his plate.
Definitely did. I mean, that is absolutely who I wanted. So I will readjust here. Brock Purdy goes. Yeah, quarterbacks. I'm surprised that there's a couple decent ones left here. Oh,
no.
Caleb. Marvin Harrison, one pick in front of me. Really,
I tell you what, if Jefferson wasn't on the board at my pick, I might have taken him back at 205 and been pretty happy about it.
Okay. Let's see. My first one. I'm gonna take Garrett for one, and I have to go quarterback because I'm on the end. So there's a couple guys here I like. I'm debating between Herbert and Lawrence. I'm gonna take Lawrence.
It's an interesting debate between the two. I mean, like a year ago, Herbert was a consensus top 3 startup pick, and he's still young and really talented. And I think they're going to be a better team. Whether or not it's better for fantasy remains a question mark. But, the upside with Lawrence is obviously very apparent as well. So I'm on board with that. Fitz, I want to ask you because, you kind of heard Bogman say like he's on the end, so he's going to have to wait a while. So he needed to take another quarterback. Do you feel that way? If you get Josh Allen, are you willing to say I'm willing to kind of push the limit on waiting at quarterback because I know I'm going to have a surefire stud regardless and just try and load up elsewhere and hope another quarterback falls and be happy with kind of a middling guy? Or are you of the same mindset as Bogman where I need to get that second quarterback at the turn regardless?
No, I mean, I don't want to wait too long to get number 2, but I'm not totally hell-bent on getting a second one. Like, I don't have to have my first 2 quarterbacks in the first 3 rounds of a startup necessarily. I mean, sometimes it's great to have that peace of mind, and I opted for that peace of mind this time around, but I don't feel like I absolutely need it. All right.
I think you lose your advantage, though. If you go with a quarterback and then you take someone that is lower scoring on the end, I think you lose your advantage a little bit with that other quarterback. So for me, I just want to stay. I want to keep my I want to keep my advantage with 2 high scoring QBs.
I think that's fair. Fitz, you just made a pick here.
Jahmyr Gibbs. And I never feel great about coming out of the first 3 rounds of a dynasty startup without a wide receiver. But boy, Gibbs, young with a very bright future ahead of him. And I know he is not in line for a workhorse type role this year, which is why I'm actually kind of fading him a little bit in redraft. But such a remarkable talent. I couldn't pass him up at the in the 3rd round and maybe in a half-point PPR league, which this is, I don't know, maybe a little, well, I guess I could defend it more in a full-point PPR league, but I still think he's a pretty good value in the middle of the 3rd.
Some of the other picks that have gone on, we had Jonathan Taylor towards the end of the 2nd round, beginning of the 3rd round, A.J. Brown, Tua Tagovailoa, Puka Nacua, Jahmyr Gibbs, Chris Olave, Saquon. I took Justin Herbert. If I'm getting him in the second half of the 3rd round in a Superflex startup, I'm thrilled. To start with Caleb, Justin Jefferson, and Herbert, I'd be pretty over the moon. Obviously, don't have that running back yet, but that's as happy as I can be after the start of a draft. Next pick is.
I mean, dude, I was debating between Herbert and Lawrence. So him to fall 7 more spots, I think is a great spot to be in.
Next pick off the board is Neighbors. So BD Reaper starts off CeeDee Lamb, Tyreek Hill, Malik Neighbors. What do you think about that one, Bogman?
I mean, it's interesting, and those wide receivers are going to last a long time, but we've heard, Debro preached it. Fitz and I have preached it. You got to take your quarterbacks in the super flex. You can't trade for them. They're going to cost too much. So not a strategy that I'd be employing in a super flex.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. We see Jared Goff go off the board next. Kyron Williams, late third round. Drake London here, and then Kirk Cousins. So Scooby picking at the 112 passes up on quarterback with the 112 and the 201, but then he comes back and is able to stack Drake London and Kirk Cousins together at the 312 and the 401. So an interesting strategy there. Then Nico Collins on the board. Are there any starts of these kind of just early trios, which I kind of think of as like that's really the core is those first three picks? Or is there anybody that stands out to you like you really love their first three picks combined, Fitz, or you're really not a fan?
Just taking a quick look. I do like S. Bunting start with Anthony Richardson, then two really good wideouts with Amon-Ra and Chris Olave. That's a very nice start. Scooby, certainly interesting, punting on the quarterbacks a little bit to take the Bijan, Breece Hall super combo at running back, along with Drake London. I mean, that's interesting. Obviously, he's going to be scraping by at quarterback. And I don't dislike stick pigs start with Patrick Mahomes, Jonathan Taylor, and Tua. I think the two of you have done terribly so far. No, I like your start.
I'm on the clock here. I consider just going full luxury picks and taking Laporta here and just really being very happy with my quarterback combo and getting tight end one. I did not end up doing that just because I think the value on Waddle is too strong. The floor is like sneaky high with Waddle so far, and we think the ceiling's even higher, and he's still young. So I really like him, especially as my wide receiver too. Laporta does go with the next pick, so I wasn't wrong for considering him there, at least if Mr. Black is concerned. But we're halfway through the fourth round here. Some of the other picks this round: Nico Collins, Brandon Ayuk, Travis Etienne. Of course, I picked Waddle, then Laporta here. So Fitz, you're now on the clock as Achan goes on before you. The S. Bunting clearly knows you well.
Yes, I probably would have had to do the hard pass on him. I'm going to take Rome Odunze here.
Damn it, Fitz! Come on.
Yeah, I mean, I've got to start investing in a wide receiver core here, having eschewed that position for the first three rounds, and let's go with a guy who's like basically not that far below Marvin Harrison and Malik Neighbors in this draft class, if at all. And those guys went significantly earlier. So
hand up. One of the downsides of trying to host this while participating is you sometimes miss guys. I wish I had taken Odunze instead of Waddle. I still really like Waddle, and I think he's a good fourth round pick. But especially since I also have Caleb, I would have loved to have seen Odunze in that spot, and that's a miss by me. I think that's a great pick, Fitz.
Yeah, and I like Waddle a lot too. Like he was in consideration also.
I think Odunze would be a good pick in the third round, and you got him in the second half of the fourth. So I think, and clearly Bogman agreed too.
Yeah, not happy with you, but it's fine. I have a combo here. I might take two Seahawks, which things are going well for you when you're taking two Seahawks, but see what K-Less does. And he took McCarthy, which is smart. But I'm going to take Walker for one, and then give me DK. So
oh, wow.
I like this start so far a lot. Josh Allen, Garrett Wilson, Trevor Lawrence, Kenneth Walker, DK Metcalf. I'm liking it.
Yeah, I think it's pretty strong. I got no problem with the back-to-back Seahawks there, quite honestly.
TJ Moore's a good pick too.
Next, yeah, I was kind of once Odunze was gone, I was kind of hoping maybe I could get more in the fifth and still have a guy to pair with Caleb. Didn't work out. That's no big deal, but I was hoping. Isaiah Pacheco goes here. Guys, I wanted to ask kind of in general, as we've gotten sort of more and more closer to redraft season and we're kind of getting through Dynasty startup season, for the most part, do you find that you've found any new strategies or new builds that you've kind of come across or seen other people share that are intriguing to you this year? Is there anybody you've seen, they're going way more running back heavy and just kind of zigging when everybody else is zagging, or kind of anything along those lines that you've seen so far throughout this draft season? Bogman, what do you think?
I haven't seen too much. I've noticed for myself, and I'm going to try to be cognizant of it here, that I just skip tight end and I wait too long to take one. And there's still good tight ends on the board here. We've only seen Sam Laporta go to the first 5.25 rounds here. So there's still a bunch left on the board. So I think I'm going to get more into that, but not anything new strategy wise. I think I have seen more people do what Reaper has done and take a stack of like 3 straight wideouts and make sure those are good, because I think that's maybe a little bit of an overcorrection of, just people being tired of running backs getting hurt. These are probably people that keep getting burned by RB injuries and just say, I'm not messing with this anymore. I'm going to take the wide receivers. So I've seen a little more of that, but nothing new or groundbreaking strategy wise.
Fitz, you go with Devontae Smith here. You can share your thoughts on that pick, but also kind of similar question if you've seen anything from a larger strategy perspective this offseason.
I can't say I have. I've not really seen anyone reinvent the wheel with regard to dynasty startups. So still a wide variety of strategies that can work. But have I seen anything truly unique? I don't know that I have, Worm, to be totally honest.
That's fine. And the reason I kind of wanted to ask is because it does feel like solved is the wrong word, but it feels like as an industry, it sometimes feels like it is quote unquote solved, and everybody kind of knows like you tend to avoid running backs, you want to go really heavy on receivers, kind of all the main talking points. It sometimes feels like there's almost too much of a consensus. So I'm always curious to see if other people, and drop it in the comments if you've tried out any strategies yourself. I'd love to see them. Anybody that kind of goes against the grain and is a little different. This is a real bummer for me. I just took James Cook because he was the last younger running back that I was like, okay, I'd like to at least get somebody. And one of the tight ends is going to get back to me because I really adore both McBride and Kincaid. And if I didn't take Cook, I would have very strongly considered either. And they went with the next 2 picks. So that's a real bummer for me. I do like to get one of these kind of upper echelon elite guys. There's still some, like I wouldn't hate Mark Andrews. He's young enough. He can still have a few more really good years. Obviously there's the Kyle Pitts, possibility of an explosion at any given time. But I am bummed that McBride and Kincaid both didn't get back. And I would have considered maybe Brooks as well, who just went here to kick off the 6th round. What do you guys think about my Cook pick? I really took him because I didn't want to take one of these older running backs that's in the same range. And I wanted to get at least just one kind of in those first 5 or 6 rounds. But I am filled with a bit of regret, Fitz.
Solid value here, I think, Worm. I don't know if anyone ever expects him to be any sort of workhorse running back, but he's going to be really involved for a long time. And he had a really good season. He just didn't score a lot of touchdowns last year. But I think he's going to pile up yardage and be a consistent yardage earner.
And he got a ton of usage once Joe Brady took over, and I think that's meaningful. So we do have BD Reaper finally takes a quarterback. He takes Drake May here in the 6th at the 604. Pretty fun, good team outside of the quarterback position so far, and there's upside with May. So I don't totally hit the strategy. I did end up taking Andrews, who again, I know he's older than McBride and Kincaid, and I would have rather have had those two for that reason. But we talked about this on a recent show. Mark Andrews is closer in age to Sam Laporta than he is to Travis Kelce. He's like right in the middle of them. So it's not like you're taking a Travis Kelce who has like a year, maybe 2 left. You're still going to get a handful of pretty high upside years with Mark Andrews, I think. So I'm really happy to take him in Dynasty if I'm going to get him at a value. Travis Kelce does go 2 picks later to S. Bunting, which brings us back to Fitz on the clock.
Yeah, Worm, do you want to see me rip Bogman's heart out of his chest? This is going to be like when Lisa Simpson told Ralph Wiggum that she didn't like him. Brock Bowers.
I considered Bowers over Andrews. I decided to opt for more of the current who I believe in this year, but Bowers is a great pick. And Pitts goes next too, so definitely no tight ends for Bogman.
Oh, and just lock up my tight end position for the next 10 years with the 21-year-old Bowers, who he's my tight end 1 in Dynasty, and I think Bogman's 2. Am I mistaken, Bogman? Is he your 2?
Yeah, 2. I have Laporta 1 still.
Oh, okay. All right.
Man. Yeah, that hurt. And then Pitt's going too. And like you guys said, Kelce went. There's no tight ends to take care.
Kittle's the closest one, and at his age, you wouldn't.
Yeah, and I know that probably looks like a reach right there after the most recent news for Jordan Addison, but 2 to 4 games for a DUI hopefully gets all that stuff straightened out, I would assume, and then back on the straight and narrow and still in one of the most pass-heavy offenses in the NFL. under Kevin O'Connell. So I'm still a huge Jordan Addison fan. But yes, my strategy was to take Brock Bowers. And now I'm regretting the spot because Fitz has got me twice coming back here. So Fitz, you're not my favorite right now. I'll just say that. So
two things. One, a couple of receivers have gone here: Zay Flowers, Tank Dell, Amari Cooper. I like all three of those in the 7th round, quite honestly. Particularly the younger guys, but even Amari, I think, is underrated. I think Tank Dell in the 7th is awesome, and so is Zay Flowers. The other thing I was going to say is, Fitz, I have seen exactly one episode of The Simpsons in my entire life.
So. Oh, no.
One episode. And I don't even remember the episode. It was my friends found out a couple years ago. They're like, you got to see this one. It was like he was eating a bunch of donuts or something.
Do you know how many people just unsubscribed from our show?
I don't dislike the show. I don't have any opinions on it. I wasn't allowed to watch it as a kid. And then by the time I got older,
I wasn't either.
It was like, okay, I'm watching other stuff. So I never circled back to it.
Yeah, I'm a little bit older than you, so I was able to circle back to it, but I also was not allowed to watch it. My mom said, "You're enough of a smart ass already. You don't need Bart Simpson's help." So that was why I was not allowed to watch it. So
I can only imagine you guys weren't allowed to watch South Park as children either.
No,
no, I was
Family Guy, Simpsons, none of it.
I was 14 when South Park started, so I just watched it. You know, I broke the rules. I didn't get. They didn't know about South Park. You know, my mom's
Worm, you're up, by the way. I don't want you to time out.
No, I appreciate that. I was scrolling down because I wanted to get
and you got a Worm favorite, Trey Benson.
Yes, I just love the year 2 and beyond outlook for him in an offense I really believe in. And I don't like a lot of the veteran running backs in this area, so I wanted to kind of get a second young guy. And considering how strong I feel at quarterback and receiver and tight end, I'm really happy with the duo of James Cook and Trey Benson at running back. Fitz, we did skip past yours. You picked Jaden Reed.
Yeah, believer in the talent. Bit of a homer pick, but I actually have Christian Watson ranked higher in redraft. But for Dynasty, I think I'd rather have Reed just because I'm optimistic that Watson's hamstring injuries have been solved, but we don't know that for sure. For Reed to do what he did when he only played above a snap share of 70% in 2 of his 18 games, playoffs included, was pretty remarkable. I don't know if he's going to score 10 touchdowns again this season, but like the dude's a playmaker. They got him involved as a runner and as a pass catcher. I just think he has a really bright future, and hopefully like they'll stabilize his role a little bit and get him consistently above 70% snaps every week.
So we are on 804. The 6'10 was the last time a player other than a wide receiver or a running back was taken. It has been all receivers and a couple of running backs in this stretch. That's one of the reasons I took Benson, is because a lot of the receivers I would have been interested in went instead. And then even more went after, Lad McConkey, Xavier Worthy, Brian Thomas, a couple of rookies. Obviously, Terry McLaurin went off the board. I mentioned Flowers and Tank Dell earlier. So the receiver, options are getting pretty small. I'm going to hope for the best in terms of the off-field stuff and take Rashee Rice and just know that I really needed to address the position. I could have considered, one of these, like a Keon Coleman, or kind of going further down the list of the rookies. But I wanted to get somebody that we've seen play at a high level before, and just kind of take the swing there with the likely suspension stuff.
I like it.
Yeah. Bogman, how you feeling about your team so far?
I feel good. I'm just waiting to see if Fitz is gonna take my guy again here. So we'll see what happens. What do you think?
The last Fitz? 17 picks have been wide receivers, by the way. 15 of the last 17.
Whoa! Talk about a run.
Yeah, I'm probably going to keep that trend up, as it were. Yeah, and I will. And you mentioned him a second ago. Worm, but yeah, it was Keon.
God,
I considered him instead of Rice,
and now I have camped out in Bogman's kitchen, and I'm making biscuits and gravy. And
can you at least give me some? God,
you will
not a violent person, Fitz.
You will get a doggy bag without question, Bogman.
We are just about halfway through this draft. We're doing 15 rounds here, and we are at about 7.5 rounds done. We're halfway through. round 8 currently after Keon Coleman was Aaron Jones. So Bogman's still a few picks away. So Bogman, there's nobody to on this show to snipe you now. Who are you hoping to get there now?
I don't care. Nothing matters. Now I'm mad.
He's in full nihilist mode.
Yeah, I'm full tilt here. I'm probably going to start the trend of taking my third QB.
Yeah, I was considering that earlier, but I don't know who I would even really want as my third QB right outside of like buying on a Bryce bounce back or Will Levis with talent around him. But there's not a ton of exciting young guys, I don't think.
There isn't. You're right about that. Who just went? Brian Robinson. Okay. All right. Well, definitely one is going to be Christian Watson.
Nice.
And then I might wait on that QB afterwards. Yeah, I think I'm going to wait on the QB. I just don't like them here. I'm going to go ahead and take. I'll go with the vet. Give me James Conner. Still a lot of value right now. So
we are now getting to the point where some of these veteran running backs, I'm like, well, maybe that actually is pretty good value here.
Yeah, there's a couple of them in here too. So we'll see if I regret that. I don't like. There's one guy I want, but I think he's going to fall. So we'll see. Can't tell him to you guys, especially to Fitz. Fitz will probably just take him in the next round.
I don't think I'm going to snipe you here, Boggs.
I hope not.
For a change.
It's always coming back. This one, the first one, I'm always like, oh, I don't care about that guy at all.
All right. So I feel like here in the middle of the 9th round, there's more value at running back than there is at wide receiver.
Totally
That's
agree.
changed after a while. So I'm going to go with this guy who I thought was going to be special a couple of years ago before he ripped up his knee. And we didn't really see hints of the early career Javonte Williams last year, but now he is more than a full year removed from that torn ACL. And man, I think there's some pass catching upside in this Broncos offense because we know running backs always caught a lot of passes in New Orleans under Sean Payton, and Bo Nix threw to his running backs at a really, really high percentage relative to some of the other rookie quarterbacks this year. So maybe those receptions get spread out among a bunch of different running backs, and we're annoyed when Samaje Perine catches 40 passes this year. But I think there's running game and passing game upside with Javonte.
I totally agree about the value being at running back right now. I was about to take Pollard, who just went. And this, by the way, 6 of the first 7 picks this round have been running back. I'm going to take Jaylen Warren. Just really like the talent. And,
nice. I was considering him too. Yeah.
I'm curious to see what the usage looks like with Arthur Smith, but I think there's a chance for him to be really productive.
As a third too. That's a good pick.
Yeah. By now, most of you have probably heard of Reality Sports Online, the powerful fantasy sports platform where owners get to build and manage their fantasy team like an NFL general manager. But the question is, have you tried it? It's time to go see what all the buzz in the Dynasty community is about. Free agency, multi-year contracts, a rookie draft, multi-team trades, franchise tags, contract extensions, first-round rookie options, automated contract and salary cap functionality, and much, much more. Think it sounds complicated? It's not. The best thing about Reality Sports Online Fantasy Front Office is that it doesn't take any more time than a standard league. It just requires more strategy. Think you're among the fantasy elite? Well, this is the platform to test your mettle. Still not sure? You can test out your general manager skills for free in a mock free agency auction. If you like what you see, use promo code FANTASYPROS to receive a 10% discount on your team or league today. That's promo code FANTASYPROS to receive a 10% discount on your team or league today. Fantasy just got real at realitysportsonline.com. I appreciate everybody picking slowly enough that I could get through the entire read before I had to pick again. The picks that it did go off the board in that time: Bryce Young, Zach Moss, Raheem Mostert, Keenan Allen, Marshawn Lloyd.
What are you thinking here, Worm? You're coming back after that.
I'm thinking that the names I still want are all running backs, but I have 3 of them and only 2 receivers. And in Dynasty, that really concerns me. But I'm like just looking at all the, the names that I consider to be the quality values at this spot. And the top of the list through and through is largely running backs. So Not entirely sure what I'm going to end up.
Yeah, it's like
doing.
boring vets among the wide receivers or like deeper upside shots. So I understand.
I probably would have taken Corum if he got back to me, and he just went. So I think that's a good pick.
We're all hunting.
Michael Penix Jr., who I actually kind of had my eye on.
Reaper now has May, Bryce Young, and Penix. Very interesting quarterback room. I'm going to take somebody that I hope Fitz had his eye on and that I am taking from him.
Oh, he was in consideration for sure.
I went with Chase Brown. I decided to stick to where I saw the most value on the board, and that was running back, not receiver. And there's a chance Brown goes up a ton in value this season. I mean, if he does kind of take over that main role in Cincinnati, this is going to look like a steal a year from now. So, as my RB4 in the 10th round, I'll take that swing. Jameson Williams just goes, is that who you were, groaning about?
That is exactly who I was groaning about. That was definitely going to be one of my picks here. So good pick, Mr. Black. Fitz is up. All right, Fitz, go ahead. Take my guy.
Tajay?
No.
Okay, good.
We broke the spell.
Didn't completely tilt Bogman. That's good. Yeah, I mean, Tajay, I would have had quite a dilemma worm between Chase Brown, Tajay Spears, and I won't table talk, but another young running back will be picked probably pretty soon here. Tajay just looked fantastic whenever he had the ball in his hands last year, but obviously didn't get a lot of early down work with King Henry around. Maybe he gets more of that now that he's sharing with Tony Pollard. And I'm not so sure that Tony Pollard is the best running back the Titans have on their roster right now. I think there's a very good chance Tajay Spears proves to be better and makes this more of a 50-50 than maybe people think it's going to be.
So interestingly, that round 7 and round 8 is extremely receiver heavy. And then round 9 and most of round 10 so far has been very running back heavy. So it feels kind of like everybody gets the receivers out of the way, and then everybody gets the running backs out of the way. Will Levis does go here. I was considering him as my QB3.
Yeah, Will Levis is tough because that is definitely one of the picks I wanted. I'm just going to go old guys here, though. Give me Kittle in round 10.
Nothing
I
wrong
don't care,
with that, man.
Yeah.
If it's just a year, whatever, fine by me. And then look, we saw him doing 540 on Twitter the other day. So give me Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb looks like he might be healthy and ready to go week 1, which is just insane to think about that brutal knee injury. But pressing 540 the other day already in July, wow. He might be that Derrick Henry freak of nature. Maybe, I never put him in that category, even though he was one of the best backs in the NFL for sure. But he might be in that Derrick Henry freak of nature category. So Nick Chubb, I think in the 11th, even in a dynasty, could be a steal.
I think it's totally reasonable.
That quarterback, though, I don't know if I'm going to regret
I was going to take A.D. Mitchell the next pick. I just need receiver so badly, and I thought he was going to sneak by another round. He goes here at 11:03.
No rest for the wicked.
Yeah, I got to plant another seed at the wide receiver position myself, and this one is definitely going to be a planted seed, and it's going to take a little time for this to peak above ground. But Ricky Pearsall, who I really like the prospect. No clear path for him to produce as a rookie. It would probably take at least one injury for that to happen, but I like the talent, and putting him in a Kyle Shanahan offense isn't the worst thing either.
I like the pick a lot. I mean, we know that Ayuk has officially requested a trade, regardless of whether or not you believe it's going to happen. It's another step towards potentially opening up a spot here for Pearsall. And then, like you said, just the combo of talent and the offense he's in, I think is pretty exciting. I really need to take a receiver.
Yeah. By the way, Zach Charbonnet was the other guy I was considering in that Chase Brown, Tajay Spears basket, and he just went right in front of you, Worm. So now you're up at 11:08.
I'm gonna buy into some of this offseason hype on Khalil Shakir.
Okay.
Again, obviously I need receiver help, so that was a position I was clearly eyeing, and I could have made a case for a couple of these different options here, but there's obviously room for growth in his target share in Buffalo, and he's paired with a great quarterback, and I think he's a talented player. I liked him a lot the year he came out, so I'll take him in the 11th.
I think that's a pretty solid pick, especially with the wide receivers that are available. There's not a lot of good ones. It's a lot of dart throwing at this point. There go two good tight ends too.
I'll probably go ahead.
I'm sorry. I was just going to say Obi-Wan Outlaw with an interesting pick with Hawkinson there as a guy who's like not that old. Yes, he's coming off a major injury and probably isn't going to play for half of the season, but pretty good value there.
I mean, there's a chance his tight end room is really nice with Kincaid and Hawkinson together once Hawkinson's back fully healthy.
And then Obi-Wan Outlaw comes back with Bo Nix, which was a pretty nice pick. In the 12th round, I mean, I know some people consider Nix to be a pretty limited quarterback prospect, but man, to get a starting quarterback who the Broncos,
Superflex.
Yeah, exactly. Who the Broncos are probably going to roll with for at least, 1 or 2 years. I don't hate that pick.
I like it. I think it's a solid pick, especially this late. There's just not a lot left on among quarterbacks here.
It's not really the type of pick I usually make, but I do think like 12th round, it's probably overlooking Tyler Lockett a bit, and I need receiver help, and I need kind of more steady receiver help rather than just only upside swings. So I'm gonna take Tyler Lockett here. I just really need to help solidify. I mean, I have Jefferson and Waddle, which is great, but really beyond that, I don't feel very good. So I'm gonna get a little more solidified there with Lockett.
I like it. I think that's a good for what you're doing, the way you're building. Like to take Shakir and then Lockett, it's like you have a high floor and a high upside. So yeah. I think it's a smart play.
Only 3 picks left for me. You guys each have 4 picks remaining, so we are getting towards the end. A little bit of a mini receiver run here with Lockett, then Romeo Doubs, then Josh Palmer.
And I'm going to keep it up with a second Green Bay Packers receiver.
I very nearly, if I didn't take Lockett, I was going to take Wicks.
I thought for sure when you took Pearsall, you were taking Wicks 100%. Like that is who I thought it was going to be the whole way through.
I thought it was too, Bogman. I thought when he was building up to that. And then I was like, oh, he got to me in the 12th. I'm going to take him. And then I was like, I wanted to go with the vet in that scenario, but I love the Wicks pick. I very strongly considered it.
Thank you. Yeah. For Matt LaFleur to drop the Devontae Adams comparison is pretty impressive. And what he did in his rookie year was impressive. I know it's crowded, but I'm hoping that things will sort themselves out.
Jordan Love said he thinks he's going to be a monster this year.
I like it.
We see a couple of our podcast's favorites, Kamani Vidal, Jalen Polk, go here right before Bogman.
Yeah, Polk hurt because he was going to be my combo, but I got Daniel Jones, which, by the way, is a quarterback that's not on by week 12 because Allen and Lawrence both are by week 12. So that's nice. But I had to get that third QB. He's one of the few starters that is an ancient that's left. And then Troy Franklin just taking upside play at wide receiver. So decent picks here for this slate. Danny Dimes probably not my favorite, but you have to have that third QB. And for waiting, I think he's a pretty decent one.
I was wondering when Fields was going to go. Obviously, a great upside. I mean, the upside fits his QB room with Stroud, Jaden Daniels, and Fields is pretty phenomenal.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to put my money where my mouth is. I have stated my belief that I think Justin Fields will get another chance before long, and that really sack avoidance is his only major obstacle to overcome. I know a lot of people concluded after the Bears traded him away and didn't get a very big return on that trade that Fields sucks, but I do not believe that Justin Fields sucks. I think he's actually pretty good, needs to really fix one element of his game, and I do believe he's going to be another starting quarterback before long, or will get another starting gig before long.
I'm going to put a little belief in Debro and take Jermaine Burton here.
Yes. I think like that pick.
Really nice upside for a guy you're getting in the 13th round. And again, a receiver room where I'm strong at the top, but don't have the best depth. I want to take these types of dart throws, and Burton's as strong of a dart throw, in my opinion, as really you can have at this point. Now I only have 2 picks left. I do think I'm probably going to take a third QB with one of them, just in trying to be true to how I would be really building a team. I don't love a lot of the options there. I thought Daniel Jones and Justin Fields were both nice third QB options. There's a few more receivers I like as kind of dart throws, and maybe 1 or 2 running backs, but it does start to get fairly light here.
Jaleel McLaughlin pick is smart by Scooby at the end. And Fitzy, I figured this would be the round after Fields. I thought that was when you would take Jaleel because you took Javonte. Was that something you considered, or was Jaleel not really on your radar here?
Yeah, I'm not handcuffing in a dynasty startup. I mean, I like Jaleel. I just I cast my die in that Denver backfield, and I'm not looking to double up.
Okay.
Stafford was the third QB I was planning to take. He came back. He does go here.
Scooby also takes the 14th round flyer on Quentin Johnston, which at this point, the investment level is modest enough that if he doesn't pan out, you're not going to be crushed.
You couldn't pay me to have Quentin Johnston on my team.
Fitz is being all nice over here.
I am trying to. Who is the last wide receiver really kind of disappointed as a rookie and still sort of panned out?
You're right.
Think of someone.
Is Quentin Johnston the next Jalen Reagor? Is that what you're saying, Fitz?
I don't know. I think Wormeli
still might be better than Jalen Reagor.
Like a good deal at a car dealership. I 0% interest on Quentin Johnston. Although I barely have any interest in the guy I just took here, which is Russell Wilson. Sneakily, better for fantasy last year than the reputation. Obviously, he was not a very good quarterback, but he's going to have the opportunity to start in Pittsburgh. There's some talent around there. I think Arthur Smith can be a decent offensive coordinator when he doesn't have head coaching power go to his head. And I wanted a third QB, and I didn't want to take Rodgers or Carr. So
Fitz,
Roshan Johnson and Ray Davis, both running backs I considered here, and Fitz gets Davis.
Yeah, I think he's going to play a role right away, and we'll see. I'm not going to pretend that I think he has a chance to surpass James Cook this year, but Davis was one of the running back prospects I really liked in this rookie class.
I actually like some of the tight ends still on the board for the value here. I mean, I already have Andrews, so I'm likely not to take a second, given that we're only going 15 rounds. I love the likely pick from K-Less right here. I like Freiermuth at this stage. I think that's a good value. There's upside with, Tucker Kraft or Luke Musgrave, whoever.
And there's
guy.
I considered taking Musgrave with that Ray Davis pick, but I thought I should have known.
Well, I have the old man. I have Kittle.
Good move.
Who's had a lot of injuries recently, so I figured I'm not usually a take a tight end, 2 tight end guy, but I figured to back him up. And then Javon Baker is my favorite.
If I wasn't going third QB with the Russ pick, I was going to take Javon Baker.
Yeah. I mean, he just has so much upside. There's so much opportunity there. The other guys that I had on my list that I didn't take, Keaton Mitchell, still on the board here. Ty Chandler and Jahan Dotson are all still on the board in this startup.
Dotson goes right now.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm going to get another tight end actually, and I'm going to get one who grew up one town over from where I live in the northwestern suburbs of Chicago. Cole Kmet, the pride of Arlington Heights, Illinois.
Cole Kmet was I think he was third in reception percentage, 80% last year with the quarterbacks he played with, which is surprising.
He's good. He's really good.
He's a good tight end. It's just there's so many weapons
in
Chicago now. So he is going to be somewhat touchdown dependent, but maybe Caleb loves him. You never know. So I think it's a good flyer in the last round.
I took him with the last pick. The last time I did a mock, I'm going to do it again here. Rashad Bateman. I think this is the last year I'm going to give him a chance, but I think it's worth taking another chance. They didn't add anybody else really outside of Tez Walker. There's room for him to finally
zero interest. You want to talk about zero interest, Worm? I have zero interest in Rashad Bateman.
I'll happily take him with the final pick in a draft. I wouldn't, be aggressive, but 15th round. I like the estimate pick too. I just the situation's not my favorite. I just love the player.
It seems the Broncos backfield seems a little messy, and everyone has their own thoughts about it. And like Fitzy said, I'll take Javonte, but I'm not doubling up that backfield. A lot of people think Audric Estime is going to lead. If they cut Javonte, they're going to have Jaleel as receiving back. So Audric Estime is in there, but I don't know. I think the most likely thing is Javonte leads, and it's kind of messy behind him, is what I think.
It's kind of what I think too.
Yeah.
So I did quite poorly according to the draft wizard. And by the way, so did you guys. I mean, Bogman, you are projected 5th. I'm projected 10th. Fitz is projected 12th. So it did not like our drafts.
Yeah, I'm not surprised the mark was low with my F here, because that's how I do startup drafts. I don't play to win now. I'm always trying to win in year 2, maybe in year 3. And, I went with youth over established veterans. And I knew I was going to get docked for that, but that's how I like to build.
You know what, though, Fitz? Like, I'm looking at the draft board right now. You might have my favorite roster. I don't think there's one team that is so like, oh, they're the ones that crush this. And I actually really don't think there's a team that's like, they really botched it. I think it was a pretty even draft, in my opinion. Obviously, the software disagrees a bit with our projections. But like, there's a couple builds that like I wouldn't have had the courage to not go quarterback with like Reaper or Scooby did early. But in general, like I like a lot of these final products. What do you think, Bogman?
I like that team a lot, Fitzy. So, I think maybe you were graded a little unfairly. Obviously, I mean, half the picks that you like, that you took, I was lamenting because I wanted them a couple picks later. So I obviously think you did a really good job. But yeah, I like this build. Maybe it's just not seeing the future as much as we are here.
I do like my own roster too. I mean, Caleb Williams, Justin Jefferson in the second is
such
amazing.
A steal. Great deal.
I mean, that really reshapes the whole roster. But Caleb, Jefferson, Herbert, Waddle. I wish I had taken maybe Odunze instead of Waddle. James Cook, Mark Andrews in the 6th. Trey Benson, I'm a fan of. I like some of these, dart throws I took later. So I like my team. I'm not like over the moon like this is the greatest roster I've ever drafted, but I'm happy with my squad. I think.
Yeah, and for me, it's just what I want is to get 2 strong quarterbacks. And so to have Allen and Lawrence as my QBs of the future, Danny Dimes is my 3rd. I think that's fine. I think my running backs are good with a young core of Najee and Kenneth Walker, James Conner as my vet. I have young wide receivers in Wilson, Metcalf, and Addison. I took the old man Kittle at tight end, really the only position that I went all veteran for, but I backed him up with Luke Musgrave. So I like my team, and I do like that I am the 3rd highest expert that likes my team out of anyone. So I like that as well. So I stuck to my guns here, clearly.
Fitz, any other kind of final thoughts?
I thought it was a really interesting draft, and I think dynasty startups in general are more interesting and unpredictable than drafts in fantasy redraft leagues, because different people are taking these different approaches to building a team. And, the objective isn't necessarily to win right away. So that adds a little bit of unexpected variance to these dynasty startups. And I always enjoy that.
I think it's a good point. You definitely see more variance with the dynasty startups than like a typical redraft, where it tends to very much follow kind of whatever the rankings look like. Any other final thoughts for you, Bogman, before we get out of here?
I just want to say K-Les and Obi. I thought they did very, very good jobs with their builds as well. A lot of picks that I would have liked in there. K-Les ended up with J.J. McCarthy, who I really like. Probably need another quarterback. Maybe pick up Darnold off the wire. Obi with Goff, Bo Nix, and Joe Burrow to pair with Chase, Ayuk, and Pickens with Kincaid at tight end. I thought that was a really good build. So just a couple listeners I want to give a shout out to putting together some really good builds.
Well, hopefully we do another one of these before we get to the start of the season. I don't know if that's on the schedule or not, but they're always super fun, and I love getting to interact with the fans and the listeners. And we put the link out on Discord, so everybody make sure that you are on the Fantasy Pros Discord if you want to participate in one of these in the future. And they fill up fast, so make sure you sign up for notifications. We'll drop them, and they fill up really quickly, which is always really fun and exciting to see how much interest there is. So thank you everybody who participated. Thank you everybody who watched along and listened. For Bogman and Fitz, I'm Ryan Wormeli. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.